Artlist.io.
Phone started jumping, what a day. Swear to God I need it, now I can't afford to wait. I just had a fan hit me up from Kuwait. Told him this would happen and we not a minute late. Seen him down bad, now they tryna hate. Same ones try to hit me for the raise. Got a mill, now they coming with a blaze.
Music licensing reimagined.
I'm a Don just like the Perrier. It's one time when I'm looking at a face. On the low like I'm pushing up the bass. Told him come down and I'll meet him at a gate. Got a check and I bought myself a place. They get some money and they blow it on babe. I don't flex but I'm pushing all the weight. Told them all I swear I got it's what it takes. Phone started jumping, what a day. Swear to God I need it, now I can't afford to wait.
Jared, happy Wednesday, brother. Happy Wednesday to everyone watching here today. Thanks for being here. Hopefully your week's going great so far. Hump day. Jared, before we talk about how freight brokers and carriers find shippers, tell me how your week's been, man. What have you been going through?
Yeah, honestly, I have been just diving head deep, more so just for you guys, into what it's like to be, how do I hear what shipping managers are saying, how are cold calls going, all those things. So I've been diving head deep, helping some people out. You know what I mean?
Awesome, yeah. And
it's been a wonderful week. I think people are more receptive. I think you're starting to see, by the way, just from the sake of, where we're at in the freight industry, is I think you're starting to see a little bit of that slide where rates are starting to go up. You're starting to see a little more challenges finding trucks even. You know what I mean? Yeah. I don't know if we're at the bottom yet, but we're in an interesting little slide. And this could be a little bit of leftovers from the crazy couple weeks of weather America had, right?
Yeah. I believe it, man. I believe
Wonderful week, though. I've really enjoyed it. All sales driven.
Yeah.
But we kind of tiptoed into finding some trucks yesterday, and that was a lot of fun too, just because we can kind of help on both sides of that table.
Right. Yeah, what are some of the things that you've kind of seen with like the rates this week? Anything? I know with the weather you mentioned, we talked a little bit about that last week, but how about the rates this week? Have you heard anything, seen anything?
Yeah.
I know you spent some time with that brokerage when they test our site here, but I don't know if you've seen anything over there.
Yeah, we've definitely seen, and this was just ground floor of what they move, right?
Okay.
So this is just a little window into the grand scheme of things. Right. Almost you feel like it's like the old cartoon submarine. I let the little windows, which aren't there's no windows on submarines, so it's kind of fun. But what they were moving Midwest out to East Coast, rates 10% jump.
Really?
Trying to find trucks, a lot more challenging, a lot more lane searches going on, and so you're calling carriers that make a little more sense, but it's definitely been that 5-ish to 8%, 10% increase in rates. Yeah. So if you're used to paying, $1,000, you're going to be up a little bit more.
Right.
This is specifically around the spot market. Obviously, contractually, those rates don't change, right? Other than fuel, which, fuel's not been crazy, which is awesome. It's not $8 in California right now.
Right. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
So been good
Happy
to be
to
on. Michael, what's up, man? How are you?
How's the week been?
I hope you've had a great week, Michael. I've been thinking about you into recommending any books. If you haven't read any, or if you have read, I'd love to know which ones you've read. But I've read all the John Maxwell books. They're kind of short, which works best for me, to be honest with you, for my mind. But check out some John Maxwell books, really wonderful books. He's got one on communicating that it's that thing just, I think I've read it 2 or 3 times a year for the last 4 years. It's a good book. So,
yeah. Well, Jared,
so what are we talking about today?
Yeah, we're going to dive into how we can help find favorite. Hey, what's up,
What's going on, guys? Monday,
what's
what's up?
What's up? What's going on? Hopefully everyone's week's going great. But I want to talk about how we can find or help find or give brokers and carriers an idea on where to start looking for shippers. And we could talk through the process too on, in your experience with brokering, what some of the things you looked at for prospecting, how did that help you on the sales call? I read a couple of things on LinkedIn yesterday is, you try not to sound too salesy. Don't try to sell it right away.
Yeah.
I think I screenshot it out to find it, but it's more or less trying to get to that next meeting.
Yeah.
Right. You're trying to find those pain points. So I'd like to hear your thoughts on that, and then and away we go. You know what I mean? I'm going to pull up eCarrierCheck here. We'll kind of run some searches on how people out there can use our technology to essentially find some shippers.
Yeah, absolutely.
So we're built to do.
So we're going to talk about it like kind of an onion sort of thing, right? Yesterday, by the way, I got to do some cold calls with a younger broker, about a year in.
Okay.
Really aggressive guy. Really enjoy his energy and what's going on. But we got a 20-minute cold call in.
Holy cow!
When's the last time you got a 20-minute cold call, right?
I think I've heard of a 20-minute.
And it was insane. We talked. I mean, we literally had we did a full-on network exploration phone call on the first call.
That's awesome.
And what I thought was probably the most interesting thing, right, is the reason why it went so long is it was in his wheelhouse, right? He knew, hey, let's call these type of shippers, specifically around equipment, right? He's focusing on specific types of equipment in specific areas.
Okay.
And he can speak geographically really well. And he can speak to this industry really well, right? He can speak to issues really well. Right. Phenomenal cold call, great network, already a response back from that shipper when the guy said, well, let's set up an email and start to keep the conversation going. And the reason why it went so well was in his pipeline, guess what? He knew that I can talk this equipment. I can talk this region. I can relate to this guy. Bingo, bango, bongo.
Right. I love that. And, and I've said this before. One of my favorite things is carriers transitioning to that broker seat. And here's why, because like you talked about geographic wise, carriers are on the road. They know, where they've been, where they've gone, and they remember how the traffic's been, right? So if you call a shipper in those areas that maybe they're driving in, you can let them know, hey, I know the ins and outs of this route.
Yeah.
If something happens here, there's another route to be taken.
Right.
So I think that's a huge plus and advantage if you know the area and you just know how to talk the talk.
Absolutely. That there is nothing more. You've got to build trust, whether you're a carrier, and I want to talk about carriers because obviously I worked for an asset for quite some time and then moved into a brokerage. But the best way to relate to somebody, to build trust in the first 5 seconds, geographics. If I'm calling from Chicago or I'm calling from Massachusetts and I'm calling out, to companies in Colorado, you don't know what's going on out there, right? And so if you're just trying to get your foot in the door, boy, there's something to be said about geographically making your cold call list more successful. And that's what he did yesterday.
Right. You got to be strategic. Yeah. And I love that strategy there.
Michael,
I know you track calls. Have you tracked calls and how successful they are in the follow-up calls? Majority of the new business I get is from the initial call. That's interesting.
Majority of my business I get is from the initial call. Yeah. That's an interesting question. I would say, Michael, that, and, I think tracking your calls is really important. Welcome if everybody's on. We appreciate you being on. Ask all the questions you'd like. We're here to help you guys. That's our number one goal. We're an education platform that helps with sourcing and leads, things like that. But, I'm a big believer in tracking calls. I would say that as you get down the road, Michael, you'll find that a majority of your larger books of business took longer. Okay. So if you're just thinking, okay, I got this guy, he's giving me a shipment a week, 2 shipments a week, right? The bigger businesses take longer, right? That was something that I thought was interesting, that how we ended the week last week is, I started talking about the guy that's, on the onion, and yesterday was kind of first layer phone calls, right? He's talking about, majority of my new business is from the initial call, right? Yesterday was new business calls, right? He was just kind of recycling his pipeline. He needed to get new people in there and start the process again. But Friday, I had the opportunity of making calls that were like 5, 6, 7, 8. That was their 5 or 6, 7th or 8th touch. Those are different calls. They kind of know who you are. You've built up some value. They were really entertaining calls because they were like, oh yeah, what's going on?
Yeah.
They kind of knew who you were. You were a little bit annoying to them. So you felt like you had to talk a little bit quicker, but the ultimate goal was you were trying to get set up, and so those calls are really unique. And it's all about getting to those later calls, because I think you'll find, Michael, that your bigger business comes from those calls that took a little bit. Everything in life, no matter what it is, it doesn't matter what it is, it's right here, right? It always is uphill. If I want to lose weight, it's an uphill battle. I like to overeat. I don't know what to tell you, right? Give me chips and salsa, I could eat it all day, right? But everything in life is a little bit harder when you're trying to get something a little bit bigger. So
well answered.
Rigman Racing, what is going on?
Steven, I see your comment on LinkedIn. Great tips for freight brokers and carriers. Thanks for being here. Muhammad, thanks, man. Ryan, what's up, man? Thanks for being here, guys. But Rigman Racing here.
What do you do? Rigman Racing. I want to know, are you on dirt track, or are you on what's going on in your life? What a great name, by the way.
That,
I do too. What did he say? I didn't even read it. I just like the name.
I just started my freight broker's career.
T-shirt.
I want to know what kind of companies I should search for. Should I go for manufacturers, wholesalers, distributors, etc.? Love your content, by the way. Thank you, first of all. This is an interesting question, too. I mean, if you're just getting into this industry, that's the question of the day. Where do I start?
Yeah.
One of the things I always help people with, and I just say, what do you know most about? Like, tell me about your life, right? You're always asking, like, what do you know? What do you do? What did you do before you got into this? Because ironically, whatever you did before this, there's probably some correlation that could maybe make sense for you.
Yeah.
Maybe you move, car parts.
Yeah.
Whatever you know most about, right?
Yeah. Take advantage of what you know.
Right.
And sort of who you know.
Right. So you might have an interesting answer to this, because if you think back to your first day of freight brokering, where I'm sure you had that question, like, where the hell do I start? What am I going to move?
What am I call? Yeah. A couple things. There's a couple traps with what you said, and I actually don't mind if Nate can open up the site. Can you open up the site real quick? Because I think this is really interesting. For the sake of answering this question, thanks for setting this up. We didn't call Rigman, although if you wanted to send us a Rigman Racing shirt, I'd probably wear it. I'd love that. We're size XL and we like tie dye. I don't know what to tell you. So when it comes to wholesalers, distributors, I feel like, for me anyway, okay, this has just been my experience, is that wholesalers and distributors are more of like this trap of, you're going to hear all the time, we don't control our freight. We don't control our freight. When you're looking up wholesalers and distributors, right? But if I'm looking up manufacturers, or I'm looking up, this, and this is probably one of the most interesting things, is just manufacturing. You just type in manufacturer. Sure.
I hope I spelled it right.
I think
Let's just check it.
I think you're fine.
We'll just check
Perfect. We can give you the names of those people that have that word manufacturing in there. In fact, I'm going to show you an eCarrierCheck hack here in a second. Just type in, just take away the Y, manufacturer. Yeah, and then there we go. You know what I mean? So just take away the Y and just click search, and now you can. It's okay.
I can't spell.
It doesn't matter. We're from Nebraska.
That's not why Jared hired me. Okay.
Yeah. Do you know what's funny? I remember my dad, when I was a little kid. My dad would always be like, "How many words per minute can you do?" Oh. Not to date my dad. Yeah. He doesn't watch the show. He's extremely old. But he used to be able to it was always funny. He would always say how many words he could do. Yeah. But on here, you can just go in and actually type in. How many pages were there?
We got one.
Okay, we got one full page of manufacturing. And if we type it in just a little bit different, you can just do, I'll give you another example. Go up to the top and just do MFG and space and push shippers. This is a hack, right? eCarrierCheck hack right here. Excited about this. But you've got to call, in my opinion, I would cut your teeth 15 on this page right here. There's 50 shippers per page, 15 pages. That's a boat of friggin' leads, right? And all these people are producing something that has to be shipped out. Yep. Now, here's the advantage of this list versus just typing in, going to Google and typing manufacturing. This list shows you what type of equipment they're using. We also show you, are they using freight brokers or not? And we can tell that by a lot of different things. There's a lot of that goes into that algorithm, but we can tell.
Yep.
You know, it's fairly simple. But this is, right here, I would start cutting your teeth. Right, start at the top. Don't have that sales call pipeline. Don't have that sales call pipeline hesitation. Right, I like to go in. I like to look inside of here and see, do they have their own trucks, right? We can see that pretty quickly by going down, right? And then from there, if they do, then great. I call and see if they have overflow. If they don't, I find out how they get their trucks, right? And I try to add some value. Now that's the simplest way of putting it, but the value is what are the challenges with how you guys load your trucks right now? Like, are the trucks in good condition? Do you have a lot of trucks that don't make your cutoff times? What do you do in order to, at that point, right? So there's definitely those questions that come out in that exploratory conversation that are worth your time. But great question. I would go after manufacturers and then just choose some other industries that may make sense. Pipe, steel, lumber, right?
You can choose your own adventure on it, which I love.
Yeah.
Because like Jared said, I mean, you can get really creative. MFG manufacturing, we've done one where it's like potatoes, poultry, like
pick a commodity,
ham and eggs, whatever, right? You can get pretty weird on there.
By the way, like, are you a ham and egg guy, or would you prefer sausage, or would you prefer bacon?
Ham and eggs.
Are you? Yeah.
Definitely ham and eggs.
So I had chorizo this last weekend. A little greasy for me, but I really liked it.
The flavor's great.
The flavor's phenomenal. Just a little greasy.
I love it.
Just letting you know.
But this could be a good way for you to start this rig, man. I'm not sure, if you had some other things in mind that maybe you can start kind of getting the wheels turning on here. But check it out, man. It's some really good leads on here. And like I said, if you get on Google, they're not showing you what type of equipment. You can see the commodity and maybe have an assumption of what kind of trailer or trucks they're bringing in, equipment that is.
Yeah.
But otherwise, you're not going to really know who's docking up to their dock, right? Like, you just don't know that.
You have no idea.
You don't know if they're using carriers that are more local, or maybe they're using smaller carriers.
Right.
Probably a good chance of using freight brokers.
Right.
But
something I would challenge you with, Rigman, starting a brokerage, first off, by the way, congratulations. You know what I mean? Like, I love that you got started. You're doing what you're doing. I don't know where you live, but I would challenge you to go out in your own town, drop off some donuts, and just have some combos with shipping managers, right? Just go out and meet some people. There are a lot of ways to get shippers, and obviously we live in the middle of nowhere. I mean, it's brutal. Like, we have an Applebee's, which is kind of nice. Yeah. But that's it, right? So we live in the middle of the nowhere. Go get a couple dozen boxes of donuts. Go walk around or drive, whatever's easier, and meet shipping managers and say, hey, I just started a brokerage. I'm trying to get some education and just understand what are the challenges that you face at the ground floor. What are you trying to find in good brokers and carriers? What is it that you're trying to do? And just meet some people. I think you said something that's really important to kind of come back to. People don't want to be sold, right? People don't sound salesy. Just have a conversation and genuinely be curious about their business. That's all that matters. So I love the question. Congratulations. It's not an easy journey. It's not an easy journey, but if you stay consistent, boy, howdy. I got to say, this is kind of funny. I started lifting with my kids, and they're young, right? But it's been probably one of the more entertaining father-son
I love this too.
aspects that I was not expecting.
I remember my first lift with my dad, so I'm excited to hear this experience.
Yeah. So my one son, who has a fairly he just has a different body type than the other son, right? The one is going to be able to. He's eventually going to be just a horse, right? He's got some big legs like dad. I got a thigh issue. I can't buy regular jeans, or skinny jeans don't fit me, right? There's some stuff going on down here, right? And then the other son is very much like my wife in the fact that she was kind of cut up. She was very ripped when she was younger. And so this is kind of funny, but we just started lifting in this last week. So we lift. He gets up the next morning. We did legs, by the way, right? We did seven different stations in this universal kind of thing where you can kind of hit the machines, right? And the next morning, my son gets up and doesn't say good morning, doesn't do anything, doesn't go to the bathroom, doesn't anything. He's just in his boxers, and he goes, "Dad, yeah, buddy. So can I jump higher today?"
Oh my God.
This is after day one of legs, right?
That's awesome.
And I was like, I don't know, you might try it. And he goes, Nope, I can't jump any higher. He goes, in fact, my legs kind of hurt. And I'm like, yeah. And I was like, well, it takes consistency over long periods of time, right? In order to get there, right? And so I said, here's what we want to do: is don't measure it today, but in 90 days we are going to be different as a family, right? And that's going to be no different than you, Rigman. In 90 days, if you stay consistent, 10, 15, 20 calls a day, right? And reevaluate your process, making sure that you're kind of paying attention to how the calls are going or what seems to be working or what doesn't. In 90 days, you're going to be different, Rigman. That's all I got to say. I don't want to give you any more time, more so just because I know Nate wants to actually talk about something here besides me.
This is good stuff.
Going on about my
Rick,
kids.
Just join us Friday. Let us know how things are going.
Yeah, exactly, man. We love to hear your journey. Take some selfies, take some video, send it in. We'll evaluate your sales call, man. Good luck and congratulations.
Yeah. Michael, what's up, man? Sales experts won't agree, but following up is overrated. 80% of business is from first call. Even if you provide value on the first call, the potential customer will only remember you as spam.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of one of those things where I'm going by my experience of being in the industry. Right. I feel like you kind of have to work for it a little bit further. And I think it's showing up over time that has gotten us some of those bigger accounts. And we grew, if you think about it, was just me and one guy in the basement of a law office. And we actually sat on the same side of the table, which was awkward, right? I smelled really well. He smelled like he went to the gym. I'm just kidding. He's a good guy. But the bigger accounts that we got, Michael, and sales experts or not, I don't know if I'm a sales expert. I think the cash is in the follow-up. I think those bigger accounts is in the follow-up. And so, when we brought on Ford, when we brought on a couple of the larger railroads, so when we brought on some of those larger manufacturing, right? Those people, those top 100, it took, I was 7-8 calls in, you know what I mean? Like, hey, how do I get this set up or that set up? So I would, the sales experts and me may not get along exactly, but I can tell you what worked best for me was, the follow-up. How many people have you talked to, Michael, especially in the last 3 months, where this first phone call worked? It's tough, right? You know what I mean? Like, we're making calls all the time. And it's the first call is not as in depth as the sixth and seventh call. That's just my opinion. But I think it's really important that you circle back on a lot of those no's or circle back on a lot of those people, because it could have been timing. It could have been, there's a lot to it, right?
Yeah, timing is everything. And every shipper is going through a different, they're going through different journeys.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, you make 100 calls in a week, and you could have, a lot of the shippers say, yeah, we're not onboarding any freight brokers, or you could have a shipper say, we've been looking for someone like, you just don't know. But that's just the whole point of it.
It definitely is timing. It really is timing. When I went to work at Tiffany's, when I went to work at Tiffany's, we had a whale list. And this was kind of interesting. So this whale list went around to kind of the top 10 sales reps. And he was a big Harry Winston guy. In fact, this guy was on TV all the time. He was at different Emmy events and things like that. Yeah. And big Harry Winston guy. Always had a Harry Winston watch on. Always had, this. Yeah. And they would give us these people's phone numbers. This is before text, by the way. Right. This is, you're going to kind of date me a little bit here, but this is before text, right? And I remember I asked about the list. I'm like, hey, is there anybody I can take on here? And they're like, yeah, all these people are open. Nobody's taking them. And I'm like, okay, sounds good. So if people weren't walking in, I had the opportunity to go make calls, right? And this was probably one of the most interesting things. This guy had never shopped at Tiffany's. I went and made some calls in the private room, and I called this guy and said, "Hey, I had the opportunity. I'm from Nebraska. I sell jewelry. I went to jewelry school. But here's the thing: is I'm a true fan of what you're doing." Interestingly enough, a day later, I get a phone call from this guy. Right, very very famous person, and to this day, I can still call or text that guy if I'd like to. And I sold him a lot of jewelry. I mean, hundreds of thousands of dollars of jewelry. And they never were able to get him because he didn't connect well with the guy that called before. His grandpa, oddly enough, grew up in Valentine, Nebraska.
Wow.
Right?
Yeah.
So you never know how you're going to connect with somebody. And I think that's really important to remember, is not everybody is for you. There's a lady that's just outside of town here. When I started with Nebraska Transport, she doesn't like me.
Yeah.
I put her off.
Yeah.
I smelled fine that day. I had a nice looking clothes. She just didn't like me.
Yeah.
I don't get along with everybody. I'm not for everybody.
Yeah.
Right. But in that particular case, Tiffany's was never able to bring that guy on until I started there, and I related to him based upon the fact that I was from Nebraska and his grandpa was from Nebraska.
Just from asking the questions, man.
Just
having a conversation,
saying hi.
Yeah,
I
love
mean?
that.
So looks like a lot more questions coming in. T. Harris, what's going on, man? Don't we know a Trey Harris? Isn't there a Trey Harris? Had a problem writing a comment on your site. We'll still answer you. Last question once it lets me. Thanks for all info on the work. Oh, he's talking about T. Harris actually responded on a YouTube. I think he's talking about YouTube, I believe, if that's correct. I don't know if YouTube's having some issues with comments or if we have them turned on. I thought we did. Or that's how you had them. So let's see what Michael says here.
Theory, it takes 13 touches to reach an active shipper. It's not applicable to me. Shippers know who you are, so they will start ignoring you. If you email a shipper 13 times, they will never respond.
I'm not going to disagree. If you just say, "Hey, I'm just following up," or "Did you read my email?" or "We talked 6 months ago," I definitely would find ways to be creative.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. I think it's really important that you find ways to be creative on those follow-ups. I mean, to be honest with you, if you look at the news this week, I mean, UPS is laying off 12,000 people. Flexport is laying off people. All these people are just being, So, we really don't boast about news or talk about news, but there are things that are out there, fuel, things like that you can reach out to them and add some value to. If you make it the same thing over and over, they're probably going to ignore you. You're correct.
Yeah, and honestly, like what Jared said, just to add on that, I had a freight broker connect with a shipper just over wrestling. You know what I mean? It's a little things like that.
Yeah, it is.
Follow those guys or those guys and gals that are shipping managers. Mm-hmm. See what they're interested in. Yeah. You might have the same interest. That could be a way to spark that convo. Yeah. But something there to kind of throw up. Hey, Tim, what's going on? Freight Master Resources.
Tim?
This is Tim from Freight Master Resources.
Yeah.
Follow-ups are not overrated. I have personally landed many accounts by following up, and have been told numerous times by the person who determines who they will work with. What that one is of the major factors, how they decide who truly wants to work with them and learn about their business versus who treats them just like another call on their list. So, yeah, I mean, kind of what Jared said, the follow-up is how you really land those bigger accounts.
I think so.
More money, cash flow there.
Yeah, I definitely think so. I love that you're on. Nice. Thanks for being on. I like his name, Freight Master Resources. We should get T-shirts for that too. Yeah, it's a great name.
T-shirts.
We need some T-shirts. I've got a mistakes made.
My closet is slim.
Yeah, it's not good. XL.
Shirts from high school. I don't want to talk about that.
We're out in Gary, and it's fine. Send them out.
That's interesting. Yeah.
Real quick, I do want to talk about carriers. Okay, if you don't mind,
sure.
We can transition over to carriers, and I think this is something that's really unique. We talk to not as many carriers, but we do talk to quite a bit of carriers, and a lot of them are smaller, right? Oh my gosh, he has some. That's awesome. My gosh, I love that. Hit us up at support at eCarrierCheck. We'll chat it out. Maybe we get you on the show. I mean, he says Freight Master Resources. This guy's got to be incredible. But as a carrier, right? How do you find shippers? Well, you've got the biggest frigging cart of all, right? You've got a trailer and a truck, and you can just show up, right? I'm a big believer in really strategically thinking where you need shippers.
Yeah.
Okay. What's interesting about carriers is we always hear this, is that they say, well, shippers don't want to bring me on. They're looking for brokers. and then vice versa, right? We'll hear brokers, well, we're only working with asset-based carriers. It's kind of funny when we can see it from this side of things, right? Because they're getting told no, and maybe either that or not providing enough value, on both sides of the table, right? Sometimes carriers may not be adding enough value or explaining their story well enough, and sometimes brokers may not be adding enough value or explaining how they stand out from other brokers, right? But from a carrier standpoint, you're backing into a dock. You have an opportunity to go walk in. Sometimes, not all dock doors are accessible, or not all dock doors are willing to allow you. But you got to think, you're backing in, and you're going to go say hi to this shipping manager, this clerk, this person that's loading your truck. Boy, I tell you what, just be curious.
Right.
Walk in and have a conversation with that shipping clerk. Walk in and have a conversation with the person that's unloading you, and ask the multiple questions. Hey, where do you think I can get another load? What else do you guys have? I like being here. You guys have a bathroom I can use. You got a vending machine that has healthy snacks, right? There, when you like a shipper, express your interest.
Right. Something that actually, I don't want to throw you off here.
No, not at all.
I want to add on to the whole, if a carrier were to call a shipper and that shipper goes, well, we just want to work with freight brokers, could that be an opportunity for the carrier to be like, oh, hey, perfect, I have relationships with freight brokers, I'll have them contact you?
Yeah.
Or how would you necessarily see that going? I know you're not a carrier, but how would you necessarily see that going?
That's an interesting question, and let's talk about it from the shipper's mindset, right? Okay. First off, the shipper's mindset, if they say that to a carrier, is either A, he can't provide me enough service,
right, or
B, I'm looking for somebody that can handle all my freight or handle a lot more freight than one truck.
Right. So
I think it's really important, as a carrier, if you hear that, I would try to come back to it and hey, I completely understand you want the flexibility of a freight broker. Mm-hmm. And then normally, and that's what I would say, by the way, normally from there, then I'm coming back and saying, well, hey, I'm local. I can have a trailer here a lot quicker than a lot of freight brokers, or, hey, I do work with some freight brokers that are really good, not only maybe with paying, but, communication, and there's always that feed off. But first and foremost, let's try to get those direct shipper relationships. Right. You know what I mean?
For sure.
I think it's just important that carriers take the time to understand how to communicate, mm-hmm, and ask some decent questions. And then they need to tell their story just a little bit better. Right. I think that's really important. A lot of them don't tell their story of, hey, this is my equipment. This is how I can help you. This is how big we are or small we are. Right. This is how I do billing, right? There's some advantages for working with those carriers locally, right?
Even throwing in their cost as well.
Exactly.
Just being transparent with
exactly.
that. So I like that. Jared and Nate, would you take a call or an email from a company trying to sell you something after the first call? Do you respond 13 on calls and emails from vehicle warranting services? Personally, I'm kind of like, if they call me all right away and they start selling right, I'm like, I'm not interested.
Right.
Now, if someone were to call and say, hey, how's your day going, Nate? It's like, wait, who the heck is this? It's going good. Who is this?
Right.
You got me on the phone longer for sure at that point. But I'm not responding to a lot of those warranty services, right?
Yeah, I think it's just a little bit different of a call, in my opinion, right? You respond on calls and emails from vehicle warranty services. That it's not necessarily, B2C is a lot different than B2B. You know what I mean? Like, business to consumer, it's not necessarily, I don't need a warranty, but if somebody called and said things properly, hey, how much did you spend last year on vehicle maintenance? There's probably the question. If there's any vehicle warranty service people call on the call today, That's the question you need to be asking. You know what I mean? Those guys are just robo-dialing. And I don't think freight brokers necessarily should be robo-dialing,
Right.
would be my opinion.
Yeah.
I also do decline people fairly quickly if I'm getting sold to, hey, I don't think the timing's right for you. And if they're not adding value, then I'm out.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? If their questions aren't what I'm looking for, then I'm out. Right.
Yeah.
So
I like that.
Freight Master Resources says,
I like this. Vetting can be an issue for some shippers. Yeah, they don't sometimes they
Yeah.
may not have the time. Those that can't or won't will rely on brokers. Yeah. Those that vet seem to be open to working with carriers direct. Some will require a minimum size fleet.
Yep.
So true.
Yep. Yeah, we see that a lot. Like, well, how many drivers you got or how many trailers you got. We hear that a lot from a lot of owner operators.
Here's the cool thing about eCarrierCheck, Freightmaster, is I can find you a list of shippers that are working with smaller carriers.
Mm-hmm.
So if I'm a 5 power unit kind of carrier, how about I go work with shippers that are working with my size of fleet? We can do that on eCarrierCheck.
Yeah. I was talking to a larger carrier this week, and it was kind of interesting. They were filling out some paperwork for a shipper, and they were asking for credit information, and asking for, how much, where's your credit at? What's going on with your company? Are you healthy? They were even asking for balance sheets, which is wild, like an income statement concept. Right. Some private companies won't share that, some will, but you can obviously pull carrier credit scores. But you're right. I mean, if they're smaller, luckily at eCarrierCheck, we've solved this issue.
Yeah.
Done.
Right.
We're dropping the mic.
Right.
I'm just
Let's
kidding.
have a drink.
But exactly. But really good question, because they definitely will require a minimum size in some particular cases. If you're calling smaller shippers instead of these Mambas, that's where your wheelhouse is.
Yeah.
As a carrier, right? So something to kick around.
Yeah.
Something to kick around.
Good. I enjoy that. Any more to add? Because we're still talking carriers. What's super nice is the way we show our carrier data. We can find you, really good leads by looking at other carriers as well. Kind of see where they're running. You can vet on here as well.
Yep.
That's a big thing. Obviously nowadays,
Yeah.
you gotta vet the carriers. So
Got to find out where they're
if
at.
I'm a
what's
carrier
going on.
myself, I want to see what I look like to other brokers.
Yeah.
How can I change that up? What do I got to do to be a better carrier, right? Carriers add a weird amount of value, in my opinion. Like I said, that's one of my favorite things is to talk with carriers and to see carriers jumping into that broker seat. There's so much value there. I know Ryan, I don't know if he's still on, he was a carrier himself.
Yeah.
I'm sure he's using a lot of his experience from being a carrier, with his freight brokering journey now.
Yeah.
Which I love. So
I do too. I take advantage of your strengths, and
Right.
he's definitely doing that. So.
Juan, what's up, man?
How can I?
This
This is a good question.
Yeah,
Juan, what's up, brother? How are you,
finding
man?
small carriers? Yeah, right here, man. If you see where it says carrier size, and I tagged right here.
I think he's saying find smaller shippers.
How can you filter shippers for
Yeah.
finding small carriers?
On just underneath here, there's a volume button. It says mega, high, or low. We can also sort it by this, and just do size, and then you can just go to the back, page 19, 18, or whatever that is, and then away you go. So
thanks for correcting
Yeah.
me. But when you do the size, I just like Jared said, go down here. There's your medium size, right?
if they're in our list, obviously we don't have every shipper in the country, right? But if they're on our list, they're still, even at low, they're still a somewhat of a decent sized shipper, but they're definitely not,
Right. And another thing that can take into consideration, maybe it's a slow season for them. So, it's phone calls going to help answer all those
having
questions.
some exploratory conversations. Well, when do you bring on carriers? We had A&Z on last week, and he was talking
Cody.
about, Cody was talking about, and this was one of the better shows we had, talking about the timing of calling people. Like right now, honestly, let's call some nurseries. You know what I mean?
Right.
They're starting to ramp up, especially in the South, and then it'll just kind of bleed north. So good time to call some nurseries. You know what I mean?
I like that.
So
I like that, Jared. Any other things you'd like to throw out there?
today was fun. I enjoyed all the conversation. Michael, I hope things are going well for you. I enjoyed Freight Master being on. Thank you for everyone being on.
Yeah.
Obviously, hit subscribe and watch us as we continue to have some kind of fun entertainment. So
Hey, how you doing?
that's DIY guy. I love that.
Yeah, and we still have if you guys want to email us, get together. We are constantly meeting one-on-ones.
Yep.
Just running some searches to see how this could be a good fit for your company. Whether you're a carrier or freight broker or dispatcher.
Yeah.
We're
How we can help.
we can help everyone. So, dang, I got in late.
Yeah, I
You're
know.
fine. Rewind it. We just talked about some good nuts in here for sure. So.
Yeah. Friday's going to be a fun show, guys. We're going to switch it up. It'll be in the afternoon. We're going to just kind of kick the shoes off and we have some buddies on.
Yeah.
Go ahead and tell
the
them.
Logistics Lounge, man. This is going to be their first show outside of their show
Okay.
that they're getting on.
Nice.
So we're going to talk logistics, trucking, anything you name it. Come with questions.
Yeah.
Have a cold one.
Chips and salsa with eCarrierCheck and the Logistics Lounge. It's going to happen.
And we're also going to be on Freight Masters Resource show as well.
This is tomorrow.
This is
who this. Oh my gosh, I didn't know that.
And
what's up?
Check us out. I'll throw it some things today, maybe tomorrow morning. That way you can check us out. Watch us on his show. He's got a really good following on his Facebook.
He's got incredible
20,000 people in there.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what, no better way to network. Go to that group.
Yeah, get down in that
crazy.
group. It's incredible.
So everyone, thanks for your time. Be sure to hit that bell. That way you get reminders when we're going to go live. Because there might be times we pop up for a surprise show.
Yep, we got a surprise show next Wednesday, actually. It'll be at night. So that should be kind of fun.
When Jared has an idea, he's like, let's go live.
Let's go live.
Like, all right, let's go do it. So turn on the bell. Make sure you get that